Well, much of the focus is on the president's tariffs these days and the trade war. There are still all those federal job cuts, program slashing, funding cuts that are still in motion. Joining us now to talk about the dismantling of the Department of Education, Melinda Person, president of the New York State United Teachers Union, better known as NYSA. Melinda, good to see you again. Thanks for being here.
Thanks for having me again.
Obviously, huge topic with many implications, but what would you say are top one or two things you're most concerned about for New York State, even maybe central New York on the education front here?
I would say, first and foremost, it's important for us to acknowledge that we do receive between $5 and $6 billion in funds from the federal government to support specific educational programs. And so Title I, IDEA funding, and other categorical grants, these are funds that if they were cut would have a real impact on our classrooms, on our students, and the services that they receive. So I think the loss and the potential loss of those funds is something that we should all be worried about.
Yeah, let's talk about funds because of the Supreme Court just narrowly ruling the Trump administration can move forward with the cancellation of federal funding for teacher training in 8 states. One of those, of course, New York. How hurtful would that be?
Well, this one in particular, I mean, we have a teacher shortage, and so any diminishment of support to train the next generation of educators is problematic. But I think it points to a bigger problem when we have a federal administration that is going around Congress and essentially saying, you know, you authorize these programs and put funding in the budget that was approved, and now the executive branch thinks that they can pull them back. And I know that they've won in this sort of first round of litigation, but it is not over. And I believe that, you know, we still do have a democracy in this country, and we are hopeful that Congress is going to stand up and push back and say, no, you can't do this. You cannot eliminate the Department of Education. That has to be an act of Congress.
Guessing this could be lawsuit material potentially too. Now, you, and I say you as president of NYSA, so NYSA, you just publicly backed the state education department in its refusal to sign an anti-DEI policy. What is that policy that they were asking for the federal government? And by signing it, what would that mean for education here in New York?
So what it appears like they're trying to do is really bully states and local school districts into moving away from programs that support diversity, equity, and inclusion. Our state and our school districts are currently running programs that are all about supporting every single student in this state, right? They support students that have diverse backgrounds. They make sure that programs are accessible for students with disabilities. That is what these programs do. The implication of by the federal certification letter is that there's something shady going on, and the fact is there isn't. And I think the state education department rightly pointed that out. They said, we have already certified that we are following federal law, and you know what? We're not going to be bullied any further.
Yeah, and they're dangling the withholding of billions of dollars there, so that will continue to be played out. I got to ask you this one. I'm curious your thoughts because I hear this a lot, you know, from people who are disagreeing with some of what's going on with DOGE and other things in the federal government. They say, well, at least we live in New York State. But how much can the state really keep filling in the cracks and the cuts that are caused by, for instance, here, what we're talking about, the dismantling of the U.S. Department of Education? How much can the state do?
Yeah, and I would say we can't, right? We're finishing our state budget right now. There's not extra billions of dollars laying around that we can fill any federal cuts. And we don't believe these cuts are a foregone conclusion. We are going to fight to make sure that they don't become the law of the land. But it is scary. And on the ground, it is creating a lot of chaos and confusion in local school districts. And I was talking to one educator the other day who was working on a student's IEP. There's for a special education student. And the conversation with parents was about how, I don't know if these services are going to be around in the future for your child. And that's a scary conversation for us to be having with parents and for educators and building administrators to be having at that level as well.
Melinda, obviously so much up in the air. We'll love to have you back again as we continue to kind of work away and sort through all these things. Thanks for your time. Really appreciate it. Always great catching up with you.
Great talking to you.